I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't think I would reasonably be making this video after 18 months of being a full-time game developer. This is my third video in a series where I, every 6 months, have dove into the financial picture of what it looks like to start and run a solo game development studio. Now, don't get me wrong. On the one hand, I still very much feel like a struggling game developer, having only had one successful, profitable month in the last 18 months. Because on the other hand, I'm 18 months into this journey, and 18 months is objectively a long time. In fact, it is 4 months longer than my last full-time gig that I had. And so I can take a step back and objectively look at my journey so far and say, I have had success at this point. So let's together dive into these numbers so you can get a better picture of the last 6 months. And then given that I have 18 months of data now, I can make some pretty accurate projections of where I'm going to be in 6 months and 12 months, given the fact that my next commercial game, a game about a black hole, is scheduled to be released this November. And I think a lovely place for us to begin is looking at the total revenue from a graph, because who doesn't love a good graph? I'm an old math major, so I'm a sucker for graph and I'm a sucker for Excel spreadsheets. You must forgive me. Actually, this isn't even Excel. This is Google Sheets. So you can see the total spend here is in red. If we slap on a quick trend line, you can see that is slightly going down. I'm just trying to be more frugal and thoughtful for where I'm spending my money. And then you can see the blue here is going to be the net spending, which is just the difference between the income and the total. And so the net's interesting because you can see this trend line is going downward, which is really, really good to see. A quick point that the trend line going down is in fact a good thing, because the way I've accounted this money is that a positive value is actually how much money I lost, and a negative value is how much money I gained. I'm not an accountant. I can do it however I want. I'm a game developer. That's how I chose it. Does it make a lot of sense? I don't know. Will I do it in the future? Maybe. And with this trend line, you can see the equation of that trend line. And interestingly enough, I grabbed that and kind of made a little bit of a formula here to just see what the projected value will be given those different months. And because of that, I can see, looking out forward, that right around the first of the year, so probably in February, that's when this trend line currently projects me to be profitable. And again, this is where I'm going to note, I'm not a statistician, and so I'm assuming the error bars on that trend line are pretty big, which means maybe I hit that sooner because my game, a game about a black hole, my third commercial game, is coming out in November. Or maybe it takes longer because I have some miscellaneous expenses and a game about a black hole doesn't do all that well. But still, it's really cool to see that that number, with the data I've provided and understanding the accuracy, does project this profitability to be happening, I guess, kind of around that like 2-year mark, which is what I hear most businesses take to actually see some return on their investment or actually have those first few profitable months. And let's dive into next the actual numbers behind the last 6 months and how we got here. I have 5 buckets of income. The biggest one is going to be my Steam sales for my first 2 commercial games, Chess Survivors and Hexagod. As always, I will dive into those specific numbers here for the Steam sales in a little bit, so just hold on. But for the last 6 months, that's average about $6,000 or $1,000 a month. The surprisingly big one, I would say, is game development coaching. I offer this to anybody who's interested in. Currently, it is $50 an hour, and we bill in 15-minute increments. If you are interested in game development coaching to chat about anything from game design to game development issues to the emotional side of it and all the imposter syndrome and all the challenges that you might face, feel free to reach out. You can shoot me a DM on Discord, or you can email me at aarimous@gmail.com. Over the last year, I've done about 50 of these sessions. And so in the last 6 months alone, that has become $1,500. Thank you to anybody who has done coaching with me. I have gotten a lot out of it. I hope you have as well. Final bucket is going to be YouTube. YouTube has ticked up in the last 6 months, mainly because I had 2 sponsorships in June and July. And then the ad revenue has also been slowly increasing. Those sponsorships are awesome because they really do help to smooth out the income, which is a perfect segue into the sponsor of today's video. Hey, Aarimous from the future here. I'm excited to announce the sponsorship of today's video is none other than Boot.dev, a online platform which has gamified the learning process to teach you back-end programming languages like Python and Go and TypeScript, JavaScript, SQL, and C, and it is surprisingly addicting. As part of the sponsorship, they gave me a 1-year membership and asked me to try out the platform to make sure I liked it, and I'll be honest with you, I am surprised surprised by how much fun I am having. I already know Python, and so there's a little bit of like remembering how Python works compared to GDScript, which is Godot's kind of Python-like language. And every time I complete a challenge, I instinctively come up here to check my XP level. I'm a big World of Warcraft player. I love the gamification of this, like having this infinite training ground to continually level my way up, all the way over to looking at like community events. Like there's big boss kills you can participate in, and like there's leaderboards. So if you want to like be really competitive and see where other people are doing on the leaderboard, you can start ranking yourself up. And like just seems like they've tried to do every little thing they can to give you that nice dopamine hit when you complete quests and rewards and level ups, and give you the sense of progression, even though you will be learning more along the whole way, which is progression itself. I think for me, that tangible progression has been what's made this a really addicting platform for learning and growing as a developer. I think boot.dev is really something special. And if you're interested in getting boot.dev for yourself, you can use my code Aarimous to get a 25% off the entire first year, or scan the QR code right down there, or there's a link down in the description below. And again, a huge thank you to boot.dev for sponsoring this video. And now without further ado, let's dive into the numbers behind Aarimous Studios on Steam. And you can see here that one of the coolest things that has happened in the last 6 months is not only have I kept selling copies of Chess Survivors, my very first commercial game, but I also launched Hexagod into early access on Steam, selling about $8,000. And then Chess Survivors, which again doesn't have any active development, has sold an additional $3,000, which is pretty cool to see, because I could see how I can start stacking these long tail of sales. And I kind of objectively knew that that was one of the goals, but it's fun to see this dashboard and look at it differently. Now, this is where I do need to mention that I'm quite disappointed in the performance of Hexagod. I was hoping for a lot better, and I'm also trying to take an objective look at the game to see what didn't work and what went well. There's a lot of videos talking about that on this channel, but I think the biggest thing that I need to say moving forward is that there's probably only 100 hours left of Hexagod development. I recently partnered with Thornity, who did a bit of an audit of my games, looked at what did well with Chess Survivors and Hexagod. There'll be a link below if you also want to reach out to Thornity and have him look through your games. This went so well, in fact, that I ended up partnering with him on my next game, a game about a black hole, and we'll be more talking about that relationship and how it's going moving forward. But one of the big things that he kind of pointed out was that kind of button up the work on Hexagod and kind of move past that project, because at this point the data shows that it really realistically is not going to be worth the time investment moving forward. So 100 hours left. I've already spent 20 adding localization and a couple quality of life things. I have 80 more hours to do relics and all those fun things. But the other cool thing that I learned from Thornity is that Chess Survivors has a shockingly high wishlist conversion rate. It's about 30% of wishlists convert to purchases. And since Chess Survivors still has around 6,000 or 7,000 outstanding wishlists, he recommended that I try to translate the game into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean to both open up a new audience, because some of the people who refunded the game said there was no translation files, and he knew that that could be an easy lift with Godot's translation systems to find that perfect balance between time investment and long-term return on that time investment. And so combining that little bit of a launch and combine that with something I had no idea existed. If you go into your dashboard and go to marketing, you can then have these visibility rounds. Now we get 5 visibility rounds for basically by default. And what they do is they re-engage your audience. So you pair them with an update, you click launch visibility round, it runs for a month or 1 million impressions, whichever comes first, and it basically throws the game down on their main page, down in this recently updated section. So you can see here that I have this running right now, and it adds in, it tells you what the update was. So it really kind of re-engage all those people on the wish list to see if you can convert some extra ones. I'm not sure if that actually worked out well for Chess Survivors, but the big thing I did learn from this experience was that this even existed. And the final thing that Thornity recommended I try to do in the long run is look for strategic bundles for newly released games. I was always kind of looking backwards and trying to find older games that made sense to pair with, but he said you want to do new games because they get those initial algorithmic pushes and you can ride those tail of those sales. And so he had found Passant. I reached out and DM'd the developer a couple weeks ago as the game was coming live. Maybe just missed it, whatever. I ended up emailing him after I saw Northern Lion played on his YouTube channel. And the coolest part is to date, and this has been running for like 4 or 5 days now, is that the Passant and Chess Survivors bundle has sold 146 copies for like a total of $300. And it took me like an hour to reach out to the developer via email. And then I created the assets, and I have a kind of a little template I do. So it's really quick and dirty, huge return on investment for my value of my time, and something I'm going to strategically look forward in the future, because quite frankly, bundles are a win-win. The worst case scenario is that your game shows up on another game's Steam page and you get some extra sales. There's no real downside to doing it. And so I'm going to try to reach out to more and more devs and put myself out there to see if I can't get some more cool bundles going in the future. Which brings me to my favorite portion of these videos, which is looking at the projections for my burn rate of my studio. Right now, as I have noted, I am burning money every month. The average of the last 3 months is about $600. If we look a little bit longer time horizon, over the last 6 months, I'm burning about $900. Taking that in combination with my current funding, which is $23,000 set aside to fund my studio, that's self-investment, I will run out of money based off the last 3 months at the end of 2028. And if we look at the last 6 months, it is the end of 2027. And those dates are kind of just made up in my head. I can't really picture what 2027, let alone 2028 is going to be like. So it's safe to say that I'll be here for as long as I want to be. You're not getting rid of old Aarimous that soon. Now, one of the other big updates I do want to say is that I ended up selling my house. And I just want to note that I did not do it for financial purposes. I have that $23,000 set aside to fund the studio. And so selling this home was really a personal reason. And there's just some stuff that I don't really want to get into on the channel. I like to share a lot of my journey with you, but some things are too personal to share. So I'll be moving into an apartment and my financial picture will be changing. Those proceeds will be going to, not proceeds, but the profits from selling the house will be going to funding like retirement accounts and getting nest eggs up like that and making sure that in the long run, I'm taken care of so that I can continue to scale my business right now and work my way towards profitability. I really hope in the next 6 months when I'm talking to you and doing my 4th update here that I'm talking about the profitability and the lessons I learned from releasing a game about a black hole, and we can sit down and celebrate the months that are, but those months are yet to happen. I'm scared about a lot of those parts, but I also know that I'm adaptable and I'll be able to make my way through it. I've been Aarimous. Life's hard. Game development might be harder, although I think at this moment in my life, I do think life is quite a bit harder than game development, and that's okay. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.